The meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. What a wonderful musical prelude. Thank you. I would like to think about something today. 2 hours, 24 minutes. What does that represent? Does it not indicate a tenth of a day? Or could we better say it, our tithe of a day? Over the weekend, it occurred to me that I should determine if I were devoting a tithe of my time to the study of Christian Science. I must say that I was not. I discovered that although I thought I was tithing, I had more time that I had to devote to it. I recorded the time devoted to my 30 dailies, the study of the lesson, and my daily watches. Yes, it was close to 2 hours, 24 minutes, but it did not quite reach the goal. This alerted me to watch my time more closely and strive to definitely tithe my time to the cause which I am now doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Day, for those beautiful readings. I'm so grateful that I was able to attend the Come to Plainfield Sunday that was held last month on April 22nd. Not only was I able to attend, but my husband, my sister, and brother-in-law also attended. I'm so grateful to the members in Plainfield and all members of this church whose prayers brought this about. It was a God-ordained event and a wonderful church experience that I will never forget. Each time I visit Plainfield, I find it more difficult to leave, but I'm comforted in the fact that I don't have to be physically there to experience the wonderful, inspirational, and joy-filled atmosphere that is expressed. It is obvious to me that the members in Plainfield, in their infinite wisdom, obedience, and devotion to God, were able to bring about all the activities offered online. The fact that this church is online is just so wonderful. The Bible study and roundtable by teleconference enable me to interact with all who attend, and I feel as if I am there, even though I live miles away. This is truly a blessing. Thank you in Plainfield. I thank God that I was led to this church, the Christian Science Church Independent, where Christian Science is taught in its pure form, just as Mrs. Endy intended. God has blessed us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Luba from Ohio, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm so grateful for the recent experience of God's care. With the spring season, everything is turning green and blooming, and the lawn mowing season is here, and in our neighborhood, there have been a couple mowings already. My husband's mower was in the process of being repaired, and I already had a list of people to call just in case the repair took longer. Sunday morning, I looked outside, and my foremost thought was, God, I know this will be taken care of properly. That afternoon, I left the house and didn't return until about 7 o'clock. Immediately, I noticed something was different. The lawn was beautifully mowed front and back, and we have about half an acre. An overwhelming sense of gratitude came over me, and I thank God for this blessing. I checked with several neighbors, very close neighbors, and they had neither seen nor heard anyone mowing. I'm so grateful for God's care, for Christian Science, for my wonderful practitioner, and this special church. Thank you for tonight's reading, and I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Nancy from New Jersey, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the beautiful and inspiring readings tonight and the music. I wish to express my gratitude tonight for the watches that are being done in this church. Before attending the Plainfield church services, I wasn't even aware of what a watch was or how to do them. During our May 6th roundtable, while we were discussing the golden text from 2 Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 17, quote, "If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." End quote. We were asked to think about how we are putting off the old man and becoming new. I thought about how learning to watch and participating in the Unity watches and doing independent watches are helping me to cast off old things. By taking thought off of myself and watching and praying often for the world, to see all man correctly, to see the world correctly, governed by God, not man, and knowing that for every false image held before my gaze, there is a divine truth that I can watch with. A while back, my practitioner shared a very helpful idea with me that I might take one statement from our lesson each day, to write it down and to use it throughout the day. This inspired me to also apply that idea to watching. I have been writing down on note cards statements of truth from our watches on seeing man correctly, world peace, animal magnetism, the body, and so forth, and I carry them with me wherever I go. I am able to pull them out and to do what I call a mini watch many times throughout the day. Anywhere and any time a lie is spoken or the wrong picture is trying to present itself. The old me would have never thought to do this and would have taken that picture in and felt helpless to change it. It is through the dedicated work being done here at Plainfield, the God-inspired lessons, the classes, the teachings of our dear practitioners, and the examples that are being set here in this church that are helping me and teaching me to watch and pray unceasingly. It has become a very natural part of my day and a great joy to know and to be able to see that all of our watches do go forth with all the power and the presence of God, and that they are bringing about change and they are uplifting the consciousness of mankind and the world. I am so very grateful for this lesson and all of the lessons that I am learning, and I am very grateful to be here tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you. Colleen from Massachusetts, go ahead.
Thank you for tonight's meeting, the music and the inspired readings, and oh yes, I can do all good things. This is such a joyful and inspiring topic relating to what I've been facing recently. I have had an inharmonious relationship with someone who I'm very close to and love very much. I was feeling like I was stuck in this relationship without a solution. With the help of a loving practitioner here at this church, I have realized that the change comes from within my own thinking, and I'm very grateful for learning this. That I can and should rebuke the error, but with love, and tell this individual and express to them all of the love that I have. So I decided to do just that. I rebuked the error, but supported my rebuke with flood tides of love, too. I told this individual about the things that were bothering me, but also expressed my deep love and gratitude for all the wonderful things that this loved one does all of the time. I realize that this person really is my best friend and always has been. God joined us together, and God does not make mistakes. But a false sense of human personality was hiding this loving individual to me. Now I see this person in the true light of love, spiritual. I feel we are closer now than in a very long time. I feel this change was practically instantaneous with my changed thought. But I know it's permanent because my thinking is different. It's on the right side, on the right basis. I'm very grateful for this happy and good outcome. This is such a joy for me, and I know that with God, I can do all things, all good things. Thank you for tonight.
Thank you. Dede from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Philippians 4:13 is a passage that my mother gave me to work with as a child growing up. About a year ago, my mother shared the version of this passage from the Amplified Bible. It reads, "I can do all things which He has called me to do, through Him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill His purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through Him who infuses me with inner strength and confident peace." I'm grateful for the deeper understanding that I gained from this, as it not only explains what I can do, but why and how I can do it. Each day I'm met with what seems to be a growing number of requests, demands, and duties, both at work and at home. And this passage is becoming more helpful each day as I repeat it numerous times mentally. I'm reminded that the only one I have to answer to is my Father, who knows exactly what I need to do and when, and that He provides all that I need to do it well in order to bless and to receive the blessing. One day a few weeks ago, a coworker of mine who had been feeling very overwhelmed was very excited to show me what her husband had shared with her to give her inspiration that morning. She came to my desk and said, "Check this out." She looked at her phone and began to read the amplified version of Philippians 4:13. I'm so grateful for the prayerful and watchful work that's going on in this church, which is blessing its members and participants and ensuring that God's loving, healing messages are reaching all who are in need. I'm so grateful for all the work going on in this church and for everyone here. I'm very grateful for tonight's meeting and to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jeremy.
See, I have 3 testimonies to present tonight. This is mine. Recently, we had the Come to Plainfield event, and it was very inspiring to hear those who joined us express so much gratitude for the church and all it offers. It got me thinking about a huge blessing I have had because of Christian Science. I was an only child, and I grew up feeling very lost. Adulthood didn't bring the companionship and sense of place I hoped it would. Rather, I steadily felt more worthless and alone each year. And then God brought me to Plainfield. It was here I found that I have the most wonderful Father, Mother, God, who gave me a place, a purpose, and constant love. Additionally, I also found I have all these brothers and sisters in Christ. What a joy it is to know I am not alone, but that each of us stand together in this mission for the world. It fills me with great gratitude to be a member of this church. Thank you. And then I have this testimony from Barbara in Pennsylvania. I'd like to say thank you for the Sunday, May 6th roundtable, which I listened to in the very early hours of this morning. Especially helpful to me was the idea, in any circumstance, including any of long-standing difficulties, of turning to God, mind, and asking, "What is really going on here? What do you see?" The idea was most helpfully expressed at the round table, and I highly recommend listening to it. And then finally, we have a testimony from Diana in Berlin and Vienna.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I wanted to express my gratitude tonight during the round table or the Bible study this week. Somebody said that when he was trying to understand science and health, when he first was studying Christian Science, he went back to the early editions of Science and Health, and that helped him a lot. And this week I was on your website, and I was interested in reading or listening to some prose works. So I went through, and at some point I found a first edition of Science and Health. So I started to listen to that. And I also found it extremely valuable. I haven't listened to the early editions or read the early editions before. So his testimony really helped me to be open to that. And I also found it to be very enlightening. So I wanted to express my gratitude for that insight, and also, as always, for the amazing access to so many resources that you have provided for us on your website. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bruce. Recently, at our Bible studies, we've been studying about the messages to the churches from the book of Revelation. And the first message is to the church of Ephesus, where it stated, the good things the church has been doing. But then also said, but you've lost your first love. And I found that this is really helpful to me to look within and see, have I lost my first love? Because it's very easy for me to love what I'm doing, and then next thing you know, a sense of routine and repetition comes in, and I don't really feel the fire burning within. Instead, it is rather dim. But this whole thing brings back to my memory experience the first time I came to this church here in Plainfield, because this church found me at a time when I had a great need. I had a great need for Christian Science. And by God's grace, He brought me here. The very first Sunday I attended this church, I walked in and sat down in the congregation, and the service began. During the middle of the service, however, there was another woman in the back of the auditorium, and it was evident that she had passed away. And then a teacher and practitioner from our church who was here at the time went over and sat next to her. Shortly thereafter, this woman revived, and not only that, stood up with the rest of us to sing the last hymn. It was like God was telling me, well, you see now what Christian Science can do? And not only that, the message for me was, you can see now why I had a great need for Christian Science. So when the sense of repetition or habit kicks in and I don't feel that first love burning quite so brightly, I think back on this experience, which I will never forget, and it lights the fire again. I feel the love for Christian Science. And not only that there is the great need for it. So it's something that burns within. So I'm thankful for everything that God has given to help me know that Christian Science is His truth, and it's vitally important. We all need it, and I do as well. And this one experience with this healing of this woman here in this church lights the fire again. So I'm grateful for everything we've been learning here. I'll never forget that one experience for sure. Gary.
I had a very encouraging phone call recently with our largest and most important client. That one of the things we talked about was an experience we had, I guess about 4 years ago. It was then that my business partner and I were planning some very major changes in our business that could have a substantial impact on this client. And so when we got up the courage to tell him about it, he became very concerned and immediately wanted to have a meeting to talk about it. So in preparation for this meeting, I found myself thinking of all kinds of things I could say to try to present this changes that we wanted to make in as positive a light as possible for him. And I was going round and round in my own head and not feeling very peaceful about it. And then I remembered something that a practitioner in this church had told me for preparation for a similar situation not that long before then. The practitioner said, remember, there's only one mind governing everything in the universe, and that's God. There's not many minds going on. And then I realized that I was approaching this meeting entirely wrong. Instead of trying to come up with the sales pitch, I needed to put the whole situation in God's hands and realize that, well, if he did have legitimate concerns, that God would come up with an answer for us that would be good for everybody. And if his concerns were not really necessary, then he would realize that. And that realization, putting it all in God's hands, gave me peace. And the meeting couldn't have gone better. He had a couple of questions, and after a couple of questions, he quickly realized that his concerns were not necessary. And he was happy about the changes we were proposing. And in our conversation recently, he expressed his continued happiness with the changes that we had made. And he even said, yeah, it's worked out better for both of us. So I'm very grateful to see God at work in this situation, in literally every part of my life. And I'm also grateful for all the help I have ever received from good practitioners in this church. It's great to be here tonight.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. I am forever grateful to have found Plainfield thanks to our website. Working with my practitioner there, I've been able to have a changed life. When I came to Plainfield, even though I had studied Christian Science and knew it was the truth, I wasn't able to use it at all, and I had not been able to find a church or anyone really to help me. And so I was drawn down without any sense of God, really, because I realized now that I had this huge fear of the future, and these scenarios would play out in my head about what if so-and-so passes away? What am I going to do about this or that? I just had tremendous fears about the future. Whereas I've learned at Plainfield to trust the Lord and to know that everything is taken care of when you live in God. And Christian Science has been a tremendous blessing to me only because I've come to Plainfield, and I'm very grateful to my practitioner who has helped me to rebuild my life, really, and also has helped me in raising our only child, who had become very rebellious, and I could not really get on with him well. And gradually, working here with her, everything has changed there. All has gotten much better. And he came back to live with us after a number of years in New York. And he's now moving out. He's going to be on his own again. And things have just been turned around. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this church. And thank you for the beautiful readings tonight and all the testimonies. And thank you very much for the music.
Thank you. Chardell.
I would like to thank Day Day for those healing readings. Thank you. And good evening. I would like to say how happy I am to be here this evening and offer my gratitude to our merciful, loving God, Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and my practitioner from our Plainfield Church. Not too long ago, I found myself in a situation where I experienced great discomfort in my body. My practitioner was contacted immediately, and all the symptoms passed in a short time with no adverse results. I am learning that fear is disobedience to God, and was recently told that health is really our communion with God. Mrs. Eddy says in her article Body, found on our website, quote, "Stop tinkering with that mentally, loose it and let it go. Just know that it is God's body," end quote. And now I go forward with armor on. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam from Virginia, go ahead.
Yes, I am so grateful for this church and that we are able to listen to the services no matter where we are. My daughter and I were on a trip this past weekend, and we agreed that we wanted to listen to the Sunday service. So we went to the website and clicked on live broadcast, and there you were. It was like being home. This is an invaluable gift that you provide to the world. I am so grateful to God for finding this church, and thank you for the wonderful readings and testimonies this evening.
Thank you. Linda.
I'd like to express my gratitude tonight for practitioner support. This last week or two, I've been going out for walks in the evening, and I feel like it was one of the first times I've ever experienced spring. I just couldn't believe it. Everything around me, the beauty of the sunset, the trees, the flowers. I could smell flowers I had never smelled before. It just was such an awe-filled moment for me, and I just used to dread this season and avoid it because of allergies, and I was just able to take in everything, and it was just such a joy. And I'm just so grateful for all the time she has spent with me and the daily work and all the things I'm learning and the step-by-step changes of thought that have brought this about. And I have a new love and appreciation for this earth that God gave, and I feel like this is a new gift that I was given. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful tonight for the early workers who endured to give us their inspired writings that help us with our work today. I'm also so grateful for the freedom God has given His church here to lead us to the readings available for our increase in spiritual growth. I read something from Bicknell Young's article on electricity. I've never seen this article before, but I know that it's now available in our church. And it said something that is so powerful to me. I read parts of it. It said that the uncovering and upheaval of so-called evil thought in the world is only evidence of what divine science is doing to bring these claims to the surface. Then do we need to stand aghast and wonder what is going to happen next? The unfoldment of truth and love, which has brought these evil suggestions to the surface, will melt them away if you and I are faithful to our unfoldment. To deny these aggressive suggestions until their powerlessness is recognized in our spiritual discernment of the irresistible Christ power, in the one infinite God power, the power of our scientific denials and spiritual discernment. I am so grateful for this because I find it very helpful, since it is saying to me that the same power that is uncovering all that is wrong is the same power that can bring healing to us all. It means I cannot forget nor be fearful in challenging error to see the powerlessness and nothingness of every form of evil, be it discord in the family, financial challenges, sickness of any kind, pain or grief, frustrations and temptations. It means I can do my part with the confidence that God is the only power and nothing is impossible to him. Thank God. Thank you, Mrs. Eddy. Thank everybody for all the testimonies, the beautiful readings, the hymns, and the togetherness in God's love.
Thank you. Mary.
I have a few things to read tonight. The first, a note from New York. To all members, I came across your website about a year ago and found a wealth of knowledge. This church has given so much to all. It's about time I showed my appreciation, for love flows in both directions. Lovingly. And she sent a contribution. And I'll just read a couple things from our church website bulletin board. First, from Pennsylvania. I wish to offer my gratitude for the audio library that can be found on our website. It is such a comfort to be able to listen to such a variety of books and articles. Bless the people who have undertaken such important work for the healing of mankind. Thank you. And then Florida. Thank you so much for recently posting the article by Gilbert Carpenter entitled Listening to God. It is very important to realize that God is speaking to us. Unfortunately, most people are unaware of this. That really great practitioner I had as a child emphasized this. She said that God most often comes as a feeling or an urge to do something, sometimes as an intuition. God also comes as thoughts directly to consciousness and sometimes as an audible voice. Once one gets the concept of listening to God and starts to recognize it, one gets better at identifying it and hearing Him more often. Thanks for all you do to enlighten those who are willing to listen. Last week, when I was praying and working about some problems, the thought kept coming to me from the Bible, and it is that it is but a light thing to the Lord. And that comes from 2 Kings 3 with Elisha and Jehoshaphat. And in verse 17 and 18 it says, For thus saith the Lord, Ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts. And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Lord. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. It's such a beautiful thought because very often we can seem overwhelmed with problems. They've gone on for so long. They seem so severe. There doesn't seem to be any end to it. But that thought, it is but a light thing unto the Lord. And when you think of all the wonderful things that God has done throughout the ages, it is most definitely true. So this Sunday, when I came to church, our dear Faith, our singer, and Jared, our organist, sang that song, and it was written by dear Peter Kidd, who grew up in our church, was our organist for a long time, and has written some beautiful Christian music. And he and Faith have done a beautiful CD of their music. And one of these songs, and we have it on the website, and it's on the website this week, and this time sung by Faith and Jared, is "It is but a light thing unto the Lord." And in this song and in the lyrics, he goes over various things that God has done. And he says, when you pray to God, you go to God and you don't really think he's going to hear you or answer your prayer, well, you're not really going to God. And that's so true. And how many times do we do that? And that's taking the Lord's name in vain. So when we go to God, we must expect his answer to come and know it will, and know that whatever the trouble is, how long it's gone on, how severe you think it might be, it is but a light thing unto the Lord, because the Lord can do everything and does everything for us constantly. I'm so grateful for our music. I'm certainly so grateful for dear Peter and all these beautiful songs he's given us. They have brought such inspiration to me many, many times. This was such a beautiful healing service with the music, the beautiful readings, and the wonderful testimonies of such heartfelt gratitude. Such a joy to be here tonight.
Thank you.